So, I'm a 32-year-old guy who recently bought a townhouse. My first real step into adulthood, or so I thought. I'm not exactly a people person, but I figured a townhouse was a good compromise between renting an apartment and owning a standalone house. It's got some shared walls, sure, but I wasn't too worried about that. My new neighbors, a young couple in their mid-20s, seemed friendly enough. We exchanged polite smiles and brief hellos in the hallway. They were nice, normal even. That was until I realized just how loud their sex life was. The first encounter was 3 a.m. madness. The first time I heard them, it was 3 a.m. I was in the middle of a deep sleep, dreaming about something peaceful like floating on a lake or maybe eating pizza. I don't really remember. Suddenly, I was jolted awake by what can only be described as wailing. I'm not talking about the kind of noise that makes you think, good for them, and roll over. No, this was ear-shattering, almost animalistic. The headboard was banging against the wall like it was trying to break free, and I could hear every gasp, moan, and shout as if they were in the room with me. My heart pounded in my chest, and I just lay there, wide-eyed, wondering if this was some kind of hazing ritual for new homeowners. I buried my head under the pillow and waited it out, hoping it was just a one-time thing. Eventually they finished, and I managed to get back to sleep, but it was a restless night, to say the least. The second encounter was a morning coffee ambush. A few days later, I was up early on a Saturday, looking forward to a quiet morning with my coffee and a book. I'm sitting in my kitchen, enjoying the first sip of my perfectly brewed cup, when suddenly, the noises start again. This time it's during daylight hours and I'm fully awake, which somehow makes it worse. The sounds were enthusiastic, to say the least. My peaceful morning was shattered as I sat there listening to what could only be described as a porno soundtrack happening just on the other side of my kitchen wall. I was horrified and also mildly impressed by their stamina. But mostly, I was just annoyed. So much for a quiet morning. The third encounter caused a work call disaster. The final straw came during a work call. I worked from home and I was on a Zoom call with a few colleagues and my boss. Things were going smoothly, and I was actually making some decent points when it started. Again, this time, it was even louder than before, as if they were trying to break some kind of record. My face went pale as I realized everyone on the call could probably hear it too. I saw a few colleagues raise their eyebrows, and my boss gave me a look that could only be described as concerned amusement. I quickly muted my mic, but the damage was done. The rest of the call was a blur as I tried to focus while my neighbors apparently tried to recreate a scene from 50 Shades of Grey next door. As soon as the call ended, I sat there fuming. This was too much. Something had to be done. After the work call fiasco, I knew I couldn't let this continue. But what could I do? Confront them? Awkward? Complain to the landlord? Pointless. They owned their place too. I needed to find a way to make them realize just how loud they were without coming off as a prude or a jerk. That's when I had the idea. I'd record them. Not in a creepy way. I wasn't looking to blackmail them or anything. I just wanted them to hear what I was hearing. So the next time they started up again, I grabbed my phone, hit record, and waited. Sure enough, within minutes, I had more than enough evidence of their performances. I listened to the playback, and it was worse than I thought. If I hadn't known better, I'd have thought it was some sort of exotic animal being tortured. Now here's where I need some guidance. I'm sitting on this audio, wondering if I'd be the asshole if I played it for them. Part of me thinks it's the only way they'll understand just how loud they are. I could invite them over, offer them a drink, and casually say, "Hey, I think you might want to hear this." Maybe they'd be embarrassed enough to keep it down. But another part of me worries that I'd come off as some sort of creepy neighbor who's been listening in on their private moments. I don't want to start a feud or make things awkward every time I see them in the hallway. What if they take it the wrong way? What if they get defensive or, worse, start making even more noise out of spite? I don't want to be that guy, the one who makes things uncomfortable in what should be a peaceful living environment. But I also can't keep living like this, with their marathon sessions interrupting my sleep, my mornings, and even my work life. So, am I the asshole for wanting to play them the audio, or is this the only way to get some peace and quiet in my own home?